the pages. And we'll start with the Daily Nation. As you can imagine, this is the headline story: return to chaos. My government will not condone impunity, Ruto warns protesters. And there is a quote here: we shall continue with our protests every Monday. It will not end today, but will go on until Kenyans get their rights. And this is Raila Odinga, dressed as he was yesterday, speaking. And an image here of the scenes. Let's take a look at the captions and scenes last witnessed in 2018 during the demonstrations over the result of the general election, and police in scenes last witnessed in 2018 during demonstrations over the results of the general election. Azimio supporters, protesters and police yesterday engaged in running battles in Nairobi, Kisumu, Migori, Nakuru, Kakamega and Kitale in response to calls for mass action by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. The opposition leader, who braved tear gas and water cannons as he addressed crowds in parts of the city, announced that the protests over the high cost of living, composition of the Electoral Commission and an alleged stolen victory would take place every week, as President William Ruto warned that nobody was above the law. So it has taken up the entire front page, this story of the Daily Nation. It did pretty much take up the whole day's coverage yesterday as well. Let's see how Taifa Leo has put it. And this is how they've described the events of yesterday. Raila atikisa nchi, serikali ya kadiria hasara ya bilioni 2 kutokana na maandamano ya Azimio la Umoja katika maeneo kadhaa nchini. Mapambano, kinara wa Azimio atangaza maandamano hayo kuendelea kila Jumatatu, huku serikali ikijizatiti kuzuia waandamanaji kuingia jijini na ikulu ya Nairobi. So that is how they've described the events yesterday. I see here people running tear gas in the background. That is their picture on the front page. The Standard, let me just zoom in, have described it this way: Raila, no retreat. Opposition leaders say there is no retreat or surrender. Flores, doesn't it remind you of that song, No Retreat, yes, No Surrender? And that they will press on with the demonstrations against cost of living every Monday until the government acts, even as leaders condemned police for arbitrary arrests and brutality that saw protesters injured. I'm just looking at the number of pages that have been dedicated by the Standard to its coverage of the protests yesterday. I'm seeing pages 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, let's take a look at the front page of the Star. And this is their headline, loading in a second. There we go. City paralyzed as Raila leads demos. Nothing outside the law is going to be part of what we do as a nation, warns President Ruto. Chaos, several injured on day 1 of protests. DP Gachagua claims Kenya lost 2 billion shillings. He was speaking in Mombasa while receiving grain from Ukraine. And I see here running, we call them in the cliched term, running battles. I see tear gas here. I see the UDA office in Kisumu where a car was torched. Where is this? Let me see. They've given us the details in the caption. And so tear gas canister explodes at DC grounds in Kibra. Firefighters had vandalized UDA offices in Kisumu, and Senate Minority Leader Stuart Madzayo is arrested after he tried to access the KICC building in Nairobi. And Azimio la Umoja protesters on Kisumu Kakamega Road yesterday. This is Stuart Madzayo, the minority leader, Senate Akibebwa Juju. In fact, if you look at the pictorial in the Daily Nation, you'll see the same happened with Opio Wandai. And this is now the pictorial in the Daily Nation, page 2 and 3. Tale of Two Kenyas, chaos. Let me just open my hard copy here. chaos in some parts, calm reigns in other regions. And what do we see here? I think this is my favorite picture of all the pictures taken yesterday in terms of the artistry of it.
I respect the photographer.
Right? Like, he managed to get the tear gas canister just as it came out.
That's an award-winning photo.
It is an award-winning photo. I agree with you completely. Sila, yes, my director is in my ear telling me, you must acknowledge the photographer. Sila Kiplagat, this is amazing.
Wow.
And several other pictures. The other one that struck me really was this one of Opio Wandayi, the minority leader, National Assembly. It's not every day you see MPs being hauled into the back of police vehicles. Police hard at work, a policeman hard at work on Kenyatta Avenue. The caption reads, moving boulders that had been placed in the middle of the road as part of those mandamandos. So I'm curious what my panelists made of the events yesterday. But first, let's take a look at the editorial cartoon, which also struck me as quite interesting. Where are you? There we go. Not too far now. Here we are. Next week, Monday, same time.
Same place.
Let me zoom in. Will it allow me? Okay, it has refused to cooperate. But anyway, that is the editorial cartoon or in the Daily Nation. Let me now invite my panelists to weigh in on the events of yesterday. Mheshimiwa Dagala, good morning.
Good morning.
Beatrice is the woman rep for Vihiga County.
Yes.
We are happy to have you in studio this morning. We're also joined by Wanja Maina, who tells me she's not only a budding politician, she's also a gender specialist. Perhaps you can explain what that is. And then according to Florence, but she's no stranger here anyway, borrowing the title that is on her LinkedIn, she's a gender communication specialist.
Campaign strategist. Not political campaign, but on
no, gender
yes.
campaign strategist.
Yes.
All right, so lovely to have you ladies in studio.
You.
We were also expecting the Malindi Member of Parliament, Amina Mnyazi. She was one of the legislators who was taken into custody by the police yesterday. Unfortunately, she's woken up not feeling too well, a little bit under the weather. Okay. So, but we proceed nonetheless. So, Mheshimiwa Dagala,
yes.
What did you make of the events yesterday? Were you like me glued to your screen?
Actually, yeah, we were trying to watch and see, and to me it didn't go well on some of the counties that the chaos took place, especially Kisumu, in Nairobi, and a few others.
So it didn't all go well.
Yeah,
it didn't sit well with you.
On my point of view as a woman, it didn't go well to me.
Why as a woman?
You know, when there are chaos, most of the people who suffer are women. The women, we have children, we have small businesses here and there. So, and even like yesterday, our children were going back to school from half term. So most of them could not make it, which to me it's very bad.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Wanja, you were in the thick of things. Also, Florence informed me.
Yes, she was.
Tell me a little bit about what your experience was like.
Thank you so much, Olive, and good morning, Kenya. As Olive has rightly put it, my name is Wanja. I think before I tell you about the thick of things, I'll just go to my constitution that I had to look for and read for myself and for you as well, Article 37. The constitution, my constitution, which I believe is the Kenyan constitution, says that every person has the right peacefully and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. So I think that is the premise of where I'll begin the argument and say that what we are doing is a right that is in the constitution. And I think the demonstrations, and as the Azimio team was urging people to join us, one of the words that many people, especially our opponents, are focusing on is the word chaos, which is stigmatizing a very peaceful process, whereas our leaders in Azimio were very keen on talking about peaceful demonstrations. What we saw yesterday was a group of Kenyans in their thousands, if not hundreds of their thousands, are exercising their constitutional right to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions. So just right at I think of things, I saw Kenyans who are aware of their rights and political rights to participate. I saw people who are talking about the things that are injuring them, especially issues around cost of living, high taxes, exclusion. So yeah, that is what I saw, and I think branding Kenyans in their thousands as people who are participating in chaos, it is stigmatizing people who are exercising their political rights.
All right, and this is how the Kisumu governor described things. Your response to Mheshimiwa Adagala saying it did not sit well with her, did not augur well with her, is that you are well within your rights. All right, the Kisumu governor released a statement yesterday on said chaos. And he said this morning, Kisumu residents joined the rest of Kenyans in participating in peaceful demonstrations against the Kenya Kwanza government. The demonstrations were largely peaceful until a few hooligans, whose mission is yet to be established, infiltrated the crowd and started destroying property. These criminals, posing as opposition supporters, stoned and damaged part of a hotel, a bank, supermarket, and shopping mall within the central business district. Yeah. Florence, I am curious, where do you fall on this issue? Because I know you don't have any political
my charmer is woman. Anyway, I think for me, what messed this protest from where I was standing, I was following throughout. I was following from the beginning. I was switching through, like I had 3 screens. Citizen, I had NTV, I had KTN, and I was just following through, taking notes and just seeing. First of all, I was reminded of the time Kenyans decided that if Moi doesn't hand over power after the, I think 2002 general elections, the one when Kibaki came in, which one was that?
It was probably before the election.
Yes. Yes. So when Kibaki had won, and guys decided, you know what, as we are walking to Uhuru Park, and if for whatever reason he does not hand over power, we are walking to State House. It reminded me of how people streamed into Nairobi. So first, I saw a people who are hungry, and I saw people who are angry. That's what I saw yesterday. And because if you look at Raila, most of his leaders have been co-opted and moved to the government side. So you would assume that he's been weakened. And therefore, when I saw yesterday the number of crowds, because I was thinking, okay, how will the government react? And I saw the number of crowds. I saw actually hungry people. I saw people who are annoyed. I saw people who read, I think it didn't augur well also the fact that the president announced 50 CISs in the midst of a very difficult economic times for Kenya. So for a common Mwananchi, I would understand him or her coming out and saying, wait a minute, this is unacceptable. So I saw that. Number 2, I saw police agitating the crowds. For me, if the police had given security to the protesters as opposed to what they did yesterday, I promise you this thing would have ended at 10 o'clock. And maybe we will not be having this conversation. Maybe we will have it, but not to the magnitude that we are having it today. And so if every time we protest as women, when we are agitating for our issues, I remember the last one I led was, we met at Uhuru Park, we walked, we went to the president's office, we were not stopped. The police were along the sides. We were not stopped.
Well, the Harambee Annex?
Yes, and we went to Harambee, and I remember holding my hand up. I still have that picture. Somebody always pulls it out. And then we said, we read our petition, and we said we want to give it to the president or the president's office or whoever is representing him. And they allowed 2 of us to go in, and it was received and documented that this document has been received. We went to Parliament, same story. Protesters were outside, police stopped us at the gate. 2 of us were allowed to go in and give the speaker. And if that had happened, I promise you, everybody would have been back to business in a few hours. So for me, police, if the IG was acting from a place of fear, he messed this protest up. And maybe we will not be having another protest next week on Monday. Because what? People would have given out their petition, people would have sung songs and moved and felt hard. Because the point is, for any protester, did they hear me? Do they understand what I'm saying? Do they hear where I'm coming from? And lastly, we have hooligans who will always come in, and so because the police are so concentrating on the protesters, they leave other properties unmanned. So police, for me, would have been walking around Nairobi city to just make sure that nobody vandalizes any property and arrest whoever is vandalizing. But you could see in Mathare, people actually just sat there, they were washed with the water cannon, and they continued with their protest. That tells you this is a hungry person and an angry person who really doesn't care what you do to them, but they want to be heard. So that's my view from, that's where I stand. You ask where I stand. That's
where you sit.
That's where
I sit. Mheshimiwa Jagala.
Yes.
Actually, I'm surprised that there's no picture in the dailies that I've seen, at least for now. I'll still flip through of a person with a sufuria, because yesterday I saw so many people, especially in Mathare North, and when you know when Jeremiah Kioni first launched the sufuria protest, it was so much fun. He was made so much fun of. But yesterday in Mathare, I actually saw people with sufurias, and actually I saw a lady with a sufuria on her head with a muiko. I saw another guy who was wearing a sufuria as a hat. So it seems to have become, for me at least, from my observation, a symbol of what she said, a hungry nation is an angry nation. Your response to some of what they've said? I'm sorry about that.
Okay. I'm cognizant to the fact that the 2020 Constitution, Article 37, and the Constitution being the supreme law of the Republic of Kenya that binds, people have a right, yes, as my sister said here, the Constitution, every person has the right peacefully and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and do all those things. Okay, the people carry the sufurias, which is quite in order. At the moment, we have been faced with the drought situation, which has devastated nearly all the counties of this country, which all of us understand the fact. And the current government is hardly 6 months in place. You can't tell me this problem of food started just the other day. No. This problem of food started even from the previous government. And all of us know that. So, as much as we have the right to picket and demonstrate, but let us respect the Kenyans. The sufurias is a symbol, yes, but we respect the Kenyans also who are in position. We give them space, we give the head of state space to put his government in place, and then maybe after a year or so we tell him we want food. The rains have just come. Even if we carry the sufurias, we have to be moderate. Let us not incite the people to carry sufurias. We carry sufurias every day, you know that. We use sufurias to fetch water, we use sufurias to cook. It's part of our daily life. And even those cooking sticks, we carry them every day. But let us not incite the public to come and protest carrying sufurias all over. Some very old sufurias, others new sufurias. We don't do that. I think it is a better way. I've been to other jurisdictions. I've been to the US. I've seen people protest in front of White House. They do picket there, they talk, they picket, and then after that, they are given food and a soft drink, if it's water or soda, they go home. This is normal. I'm happy my sister here says that there was a time time they had to do that peaceful demonstration. Up to Harambee House, they gave out their petition, they came to Parliament, which we normally see. We are always in Parliament, we see people come, they demonstrate up to the gate. Two of their persons are allowed in to present their petition to the speaker or the clerk. The same what they did, and they presented it to Harambee House. But yesterday's scenario, there was something else beyond that.
Okay, and we'll get into, I'll ask Wanja about something else beyond that. But you're saying this problem of hunger was there even before the Kenya Kwanza administration came in. I think the point is this: you have nominated 50, and it's something that Florence has raised. You have nominated 50 chief administrative secretaries. Then you have removed fuel and unga subsidies. I think that is the point, that people are asking why is there money for 50 CASs, their parks included, you know, the mortgage of the cars and whatever stuff that will come along with that, but there's no money to hire the 4,000 jobless doctors. There's no money to absorb the, about 3,500 universal healthcare workers on permanent and pensionable. That, I think, is the point.
My sister, the 50 CAS, that is a drop in the ocean. And those 50 CAS, are they from a different republic or they're Kenyans? These are Kenyans who have been given the opportunity to serve us. I think before we protest and cry all over, the cries are all over. What if it was you who was among those ones, or my sisters here, among the 50 CASs? Could that noise be there? Let us look at this in a sober manner. These are Kenyans who have a right also to be given job opportunities, and it is a right for them. And that is something very little. I'm very sure that will not affect anything.
All right.
Like right now, they have not even started earning, but the situation is where we are. So, let us not use that as a reason of why people are demonstrating, because these ones will get mortgage. What? People are getting mortgages here. Even yesterday, how much money did we lose in that kind of scenario?
According to the DP, 2 billion, and,
yes.
And I'll flip the paper. But Mheshimiwa, we'll come back with that, because then again, you know, there's that saying that when you're in a hole, you stop digging. But Wanja, and okay, I need time to finish. You know, we haven't finished flipping through this Gazette. I want to finish in the next few minutes. But this was a question. I mean, I was interrogating yesterday, and that is revolutionary hero or political demagogue, right?
Yes.
In relation to Raila Odinga. And the reason we asked this question is because of what Mheshimiwa Adagala has raised. She says, in reality, this thing was not about hunger. This was about Raila Odinga's political ambitions. So we will come to that. But first, Mheshimiwa, did I encapsulate your sentiments correctly? Did I?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So let us finish with the dailies. Let's take a look at the Business Daily. Their top story, which is interesting, is Ruto, Rigathi, Mudavadi get 802 million shillings for new cars. Am I reading correctly? Is this?
Yes, it's written that.
All right. And continuing with this, total state car budget more than doubles to 2 billion shillings. Budget expected to rise further on vehicles for CASs, who we're just discussing. And this report is by Dominic Omondi. The budget allocation for the purchase of new cars for Kenya's top 3 government offices has shot up 8 times in the latest changes to the spending plan that also benefited retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. The offices of President William Ruto, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi have been allocated 802 million to buy motor vehicles in the current financial year, a significant increase from what had been allocated as Kenyans come to terms with a bloated government that has scuttled Kenya Kwanza's austerity measures. And I see here on the ticker, Ruto tweaks Uhuru budget, grows recurrent by 87.6 billion shillings. President William Ruto's administration has increased the budget for day-to-day running of the national government by 87.57 billion as his administration reorganizes budget plan inherited from the Uhuru administration. And Vivo at the bottom here, Vivo takes dollar loans. Yes, amid forex shortage, oil marketer Vivo Energy Kenya took up dollar loans last year as a hedge against forex shortages and a deteriorating exchange rate that left importers struggling to find hard currency to fulfill external orders. And business bears brunt of protests as stock market indifferent. Okay, so that is the front page of the Business Daily. I want us to take a break and come back with our topic of conversation proper, and that is Monday Blues. Is it time for political consensus, and should it be time for political consensus? How do we achieve said political consensus? Yesterday, there was a statement released by the Center for Multi-Party Democracy saying the greater responsibility lies with President William Ruto. I'm curious to hear what Florence has to say on the subject. And also, when we come back from the break, I'd like us to address this. Ruto, we will not condone impunity, as DP Gachagua tells Azimio leaders to call off the demonstrations since they were hurting the economy. On the other side of this break.
Fruity freshness in every sip.
Welcome back to AM Live. The debate continued even during the break, and I remember when Florence, you were saying it reminded you of 2002. Was it? You said 2002, right?
Yes, when I've lost count.
Okay.
Maybe I'm too
Was
old.
it 2000?
Anyway, when Kibaki was taking over.
It reminded me of November 16th or 17th November 2017 when Raila was coming back from the US.
Yes.
Remember, and he was told he cannot hold a meeting at Uhuru Park, and they walked all the way
from the airport,
Mombasa Road. Did they eventually end up meeting and then eventually made it? Eventually made it. We didn't address anybody, but they eventually made it to Uhuru Park. And speaking of Sufurias, and saying I hadn't seen any photo. There is actually one in the Star. This is page 8 of the Star. This is what? This is 3.
Thank you.
And this is their editorial cartoon before I bypass it. Him in his element. A handshake can't be worse. Is that what it says? This is page what? The editorial cartoon in the Star. Page 3. Does it say him in his element, a handshake can't be worse? Yeah, and it's interesting because yesterday one of my panelists said sending Raila to the streets is like a monkey in the forest or a fish to water. That is where he's most, he is actually, to use this term here, in his element. And there he is in his uniform, but page 8 is where we were heading. And that one had the picture of a gentleman with a sufuria and actually ugali, if I have seen correctly, in the sufuria.
Kuna ugali hapo?
Page 8. Ni kama nimeona ugali.
Kuna kitu.
Is it page 8? Yes,
page 8 in the middle. I think page 9.
Ugali. Page 9.
Ama nile kitu kushikilia sufuria. Amevaa yellow.
Yeah, so there is that photo. But anyway, so this is what we are going to discuss, and that is President William Ruto's response.
Yes, I mean, you pointed at me, so I'm assuming.
Yes, please.
I think, and maybe I just wanted to respond to Mheshimiwa's message before I talk about impunity. I think for me, where I stand is that when leaders start feeling the people's pain and not giving excuses, the first thing to do is I hear you, I understand there is hunger, and I understand that. But if you tell a woman whose children have not eaten for 2 days, you know, the prices were already up anyway, but well, I don't want to sleep hungry. And the government came in with a promise of we will do A, B, C, D. In fact, when we come in, we will reduce the price of unga. When we come in, we'll do this and all that. So that promising, maybe they should not have promised. But that promising is what people are holding on to. People are not looking at, we knew the Ukraine war had affected many things. We knew all these things had happened. But we still promised as a government. What does that mean? Then the Mwananchi will hold you to account on what you said. And so Wananchi are holding the government to account because you said you reduce the price of unga. So that's the issue here. And so when leaders are not feeling the pain of the Mwananchi, then we are divorced from what we are, you know, we've been elected to do. And then number two, if we say the 50 CSs have not gone to work, therefore, what if it was me, what if it was Olive who has been nominated, then again we are still divorced from where the people are coming from. You know, we could afford food ourselves. And I'm sure all the 50 that have been nominated can comfortably put food on the table. For me, what I say in gender and where women are concerned, if one woman is hurt, we are still all hurt. Until one woman is safe, we are not safe. So for me, until all Kenyans can have food on the table, even at least even one meal, then we are all not safe, or we are not, you know, being practical as leaders. So long as you take care of the most vulnerable, but if you worry about wale wako juu and you forget the ones who are down here, then what is leadership about? Now, back to what the president said. For me, when I was listening, because I listened to an audio, I hoped, because he did not specifically pick names and say who and who, but I was hoping he's also addressing around impunity. He's also addressing the police, because he said in his government they will not use police badly the way, you know, quote unquote other regimes have, but police are there to serve all Kenyans. And I remember somebody quoting and sending, there was something on Facebook saying, oh, why have you used expired tear gas? Why aren't you using our tax bases properly? Yes, so point is, the police are here to serve everyone. They're here to keep me safe, whether I'm protesting or not. They're here to keep you safe if you've opened your business, right? And so that's the work of the police. So I hope, for me, that the president was also addressing hooligans and addressing the police. Do not trigger Kenyans. As I said before, if there was police cordon, umesema in the route haya twende, walk with you up to State House, block State House, assuming you don't want anybody to enter, which is okay. Leave your petition here, we've had you. Sing songs and leave. It will be done. It will be finished. We will be okay. Treat a protester the way a protester wants to be treated. Hard. Treat a hooligan the way a hooligan wants to be treated. Arrested because you're spoiling other people's property. And finish. Because we cannot say we can't picket. If we know next week we start picketing and saying out of the 50, see the 2/3 hakuna hapo, then what? Will we be also, you know, tear gassed? Because that's the next place. Me, I'm just waiting. How there are 50. I'm looking at the women. Yes. So that's not treat the threshold. Yeah. And he said his will be one of the governments that actually upholds, you know, the gender equality conversation. So yes, you know, we have every reason to say, wait a minute, even as women, what have you done? What have you done around just these 50? You know, yes. So. I think for me, and I pray that the president was also addressing the police and the high-handedness that I saw from what I was viewing. Yes.
All right. And Wanja, I'm coming to you next. But Mheshimiwa Dagala, just for you to keep in mind, the case that Florence is making, and you've said the Ruto administration is still young, we give it time. But the clip that I have seen keeps being thrown back in your faces is ile ya nikieka Biblia chini. So we'll come to that. Wanja, there was that question of revolutionary hero or political demagogue. Was this maandamano really about us Kenyans and the cost of living, or was it really about Raila Odinga and the election that he believes was stolen from him? Was it about his political interests, or was it about our interests?
Thank you very much, Olive. I wonder if you'll allow me to also speak into the issues that Mheshimiwa raised, and then I'm going to come to Baba.
Go ahead.
I'll start by saying that when a person is in a position of leadership, and the people they are leading is telling the person that, oh, I'm not happy with this and that, it is not your job to tell the person where the problem is coming from. You know, it was there even before I came to this office. If you have taken an office of responsibility, your job is to give solutions, not to remind people that, you know, even who was a manager before me was also doing this and that, what have you. The other issue that I'm struggling with from the very beginning is how these maandamanos and demonstrations are being stigmatized into chaos. We are going into anarchy, what have you, this is about selfish interests. This maandamano did not catch anybody by surprise. It is important for us to remember the history of the last 1 month. In the last 1 month, there were public consultations and public barazas building into the moment that we had yesterday. Even before this maandamano of the 20th of March, there was a 14-day ultimatum that had spoken into the issues that are concerning Kenyans and given the person in charge an amount of time to handle those issues. So then, why are we acting surprised? Why are we stigmatizing the maandamanos? Yet there was a precursor and a list of demand to this issue. On that issue of Sufuria, I have never seen an organic audience and an organic group of people and masses of people like the one I saw yesterday. You agree with me? Anybody who watched TV would agree with me that there is nobody who was incited to take a Sufuria. And indeed, if they were incited, we have just stated clearly that this Baba did not use the route that he had said he'll use. So the question is, how organic was it that he went to another route, the so-called other route, and there were people in their, you know, in their thousands holding Sufurias. But Sufurias, I think we are taking Sufurias, the word Sufuria quite literally. Why can't we unpack the symbolic meaning of Sufuria and Mwiko and how much people are identifying with it? You see, in a protest, there is no template for protesting. If people, like in Nairobi here, I saw young people dancing, I saw other people, you can decide what you want to do with it. That's why, for example, in South Africa, I saw Malema and his team, they were putting on red. That is the symbolism of their protest. So, if in the UK and in London, maybe their protesting is different and they are given tea and donuts after the protesting, is okay. But if our protest is about people going to the streets, identifying with Kioni's message of Sufuria, still okay as long as it's within the law. Really, Olive, I think we are as strong as our weakest link. And some of these issues, and I'm just coming to the question you've asked me about a political demagogue.
As you're speaking, I'm trying to trace that letter that Azimio wrote to the police, but finish your point. I found it. Finish your point and then I'll come.
You've asked if Baba is a political demagogue or a revolutionary. You know, it depends also on who you are asking. If you're asking the people who have branded him as a lord of impunity, obviously they will call him a demagogue. But the millions of Kenyans that we saw in Mathare, in Juja Road, in Isili, certainly in him they see, you know, they see a hero and a liberator who is speaking their language of Sufuria and their language of high cost of living. You know, Olive, in this country, we have very big inequalities. We have very huge gaps between people who have resources and those people who don't have. This campaign that was, the campaign of Kenya Kwanza focused largely on promising the people who are on the bottom of the pyramid that they are going to be their saviors. That's why we saw narratives that were pitting the haves and the have-nots, the people on top and the people on the bottom of the pyramid. So the reason why, you know, you're saying it's 6 months, give them time, but you whipped their emotions, making them believe that you're going to solve their problems within a millisecond. So, what is this? Where is the disconnect? At one point, there is no money, the coffers were empty, There was nothing. On the other side, there are so much, you know, you've just read the Business Daily, and you've talked about billions until I'm like, oh, a billion, you know, the way you are casually mentioning billions, you'd think billions are very small amounts. It's like change. For me, really, is he a demagogue or a revolutionary? The answer is it depends on who you ask. But if the hundreds of thousands of Kenyans that I saw yesterday in town, in Isili, in Mathare, are asked, I say they see a revolutionary who is identifying with basics first. Lower the food prices. Stop praying too much. You're making us tired, yet we want you to deliver for us.
Can you pray too much?
The Bible says pray without ceasing.
Well, you can pray without ceasing, honestly, but you can pray without ceasing. But the moment the Kenyans, even some of the bishops, are saying that it's really getting too much, there's something. The moment you call for prayers in a park, I remember the prayers that were called, and the person who was praying, the bishop person, focused a lot on politics, not on the issues of prayers. It can tell you something that people are asking questions around the prayers, and they are also losing hope. So for me, it's about a person whom people are identifying with. And so to the people who came out in large numbers, to the people who are dancing and saying tear gas ni dawa ya homa, to the people who are dancing and saying that dawa ya maandamano ni tear gas, because they were being intimidated but they refused to go back to their homes, they see a revolutionary whose message of hope they're identifying with. They see a revolutionary in Kioni who told them it is basics first, let's hit the sufuria, and then it organically got a life of its own. So yeah.
Okay. And Mheshimiwa Dagar, I'd like you to also to come in and respond to some of what they said. And I'm also curious because they're saying essentially you promised us, you know, and Kenya Kwanza, if I understood Wanja correctly, cannot keep blaming our problems on the previous administration. We now expect them to give solutions. So those three questions, you know, the promises you made, Biblia ikiekwa chini, and then also the question of the blame game, and then I'll invite you to also comment on the conduct of the police. But before then, Wanja, just my last follow-up to what you said before we lose that train of thought. Speaking of police conduct, and where is that statement? Here it is, Wycliffe Oparanya, and this is the reason police said they declared this procession illegal. They said they were not given sufficient notice in line with the Public Order Act. And this is the letter that was written by Wycliffe Oparanya. We notify you that on Monday, the 20th of March, 2023, we'll be holding a procession within the Nairobi metropolitan area. Kindly provide us with security for the same, dated 17th of March. So let's count Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Was it within time?
Yes.
Supposed to be
3 days, and the Public
Order. There's a minimum, there's a maximum.
But maybe by the time they got it, right, it was probably 18. Anyway, I don't know. That's a presumption, right? The police say they were not given the 3 days. And Section 5 of the Public Order Act reads, any person intending to convene a public meeting or a public procession shall notify the regulating officer of such intent at least 3 days, but not more than 14 days before the proposed date of the public meeting or procession. So Wanja, you said here it did not come as a surprise to anyone. So why mbona mkujipanga mapema?
The issue is, I think, Olive, even as we are looking at the law and reading all the critical documents like the Public Order Act, we should also not be blind to the fact that some of these things we are doing are also political things. If, you know, everybody lives in Kenya, we have seen the genesis of this matter, including the 14 days ultimatum, let's meet here, let's meet on Monday. So you wouldn't tell me that they were not aware that we had a demonstration on March 20th.
No, but I mean the police cannot rely on statements, but they actually need formal communication. And this formal communication came on the 17th. Raila Odinga announced that there would be the mass demonstration on the 9th of March.
Yes.
So given you had all that time, why did you wait to communicate on the 17th?
But 17th of March to 20th of March, I thought those are 3 days.
Why leave it to the last minute? Because then I suppose
but the
police have told us they were not given the 3 days.
But you see, you just read the dates, March 17th up to March 20th.
But you know, this one doesn't have that stamp of when it was received. But it's okay. I
think that is really getting into the details. But really what I wanted to say is that the police should also decide if they want to be utumishi kwa wote or partners in crime. Why am I saying this? Because if you have counted and those are the 3 days, and if they live in Kenya and they have been focusing on the political temperatures and the direction they are taking, the question is, one, so if it is about the 3 days, is it, you see, the law does not work in a vacuum. We also have to look at those issues around the political temperatures of the country. It is notification. It is not seeking permission. You see, the law does not say that the police have the ability to give you permission or not to give you permission to do a demonstration. It was an issue of notification. Was there a notification? You've just read for us a letter. But we also see political, and we can see some of this.
Wanja, if I'm sitting on the other side, and I'm just trying to be fair on both sides.
Yeah.
The President William Ruto has said Azimio likes to operate outside the lines, right? You referenced the Lord of Impunity tag. Is it warranted? Because this might seem like a small issue, but is it symptomatic of a bigger issue? Because President William Ruto has said, first of all, the steps as to how an IEBC selection panel is constituted is very clear. In fact, the initial law was initiated under the handshake arrangement, of which the Azimio side, as it's constituted now, was party. So why are they now coming back to cry over spilled milk? This is something that is what the Kenya Kwanza argument is. So President William Ruto has said, you want me to open servers? How? I am not IEBC. Where are these servers? You know, he was not responsible for the conduct of the elections. So is this symptomatic of Azimio not abiding to the letter of the law? Is it an impunity issue? I don't know that Florence should come in, or Mheshimiwa Dagala, you've been so quiet. What do you think?
Okay, thank you, Olive. Yeah, I'm very happy. I want to go back to what my sister Wanja has just talked here, condemning prayers and them. I'm very surprised as a Kenyan lady trying to demean prayers. Prayers are very cool. For your information, this country where we are and the peaceful elections we had last year is due to Kenyans who stood up in the gap and fasted and prayed, and God answered our prayer. We had peaceful elections in last year in August. Therefore, you cannot purport here on the national television saying prayer is bad. We depend on prayer, we pray, and even me, before I came here, I woke up at 3, I prayed, and we will continue praying. And as a church elder, the way I am a politician, and as a church elder, my sister Olive, I'll still tell you, we are going to pray the more. And even tomorrow morning, I'm welcoming you to Bunge Fellowship at from 7 in Continental House. We are still praying. Prayers are all over in this country. We will not stop Kenyans from praying. When we come to you said the demagogue or the...
Yes, revolutionary hero or political demagogue.
Okay, we respect Raila as one of us, as a Kenyan and as a leader in this country. I think he falls in all the two at the same time.
Okay.
He works very well in both. And my sister Olive, promises were made, yes, and promises cannot be delivered in a day. You can see, as per we are talking now, he promised about the Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund is in progress. It was started from 500 to 50,000. That was rolled out and it's in progress. My sister here says that she's a women crusader the way I do. I'm also in that bracket. She's fronting the women issue. Recently, a few weeks ago, we were at KICC during the Women International Day. And the president launched The second phase of the Hustler Fund, which is now for groups and so forth, people can now go and take 50,000 and above. My sister Olive, you want to tell me that's not a way to go for women? You want to tell me that one of the promises has not been delivered? As you are saying, you have just said here that Rigathi was in Mombasa. He is not in Mombasa on a holiday. The deputy president is in Mombasa. He was launching food. There is food that has just arrived. So once this food comes back, most areas is taken. Where are people going to carry sufurias? You have showed me here a picture of a man carrying a sufuria on top of his head, which is an African. So women are the ones who carry food, sufurias on the head. I can see the food is overflowing. I can see food on it. It's not an empty sufuria. Wow. It is loaded. It seems, or maybe he went to a hotel with the anarchy they are trying to do. Maybe he carried food that was being cooked in somebody's hotel, in a hustler's hotel, which is very bad. If it is an empty sufuria like the ones that were being beaten all over, that one, you know, when you have to dance, the sufuria produces a good sound for dancing. It can be for cooking. It's an instrument for both sides. You can be overexerted, you use it to hit. I can even use this cup to tell you that your time is gone. So let us not trivialize things that your promises were made that didn't, they have not been worked on. Things are moving. Blame games. Why should there be blame games? His Excellency William Samoei Ruto is in control. Let him be given time with his executive. They produce. Once we finish about a year and nothing is coming up, then you have a right to say that you promised us this. Where is it? You did this. Where is it? Conduct of police. I was watching keenly, and in fact, the first place I watched was in Kibra. I saw the police were just moving with them, just doing their daily work. They were provocated. I saw along Juja Road, a man putting on a very huge thing, I don't know, a turban, something of the sort, and the police were just standing there watching them as they were passing. That man is the one who started throwing stones until even a policeman was forced to jump over a wall for his safety. So you want to tell me those people were just doing peaceful picketing? They had a motive. They had since they were up to some mischief. Okay. Opening of servers. I remember after the election, Azimio went to court. After Kenya Kwanza, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto won squarely. I was in that Bomas of Kenya that day. Okay, they went back to court. The Supreme Court ruled and said that it was hot air. Now, if you think that the Supreme Court messed, how do you want the servers to be opened? You have you've said here properly. And I remember, I was in the last parliament. I was in the JLAC committee. I was removed from JLAC. Alice Wahome was removed in JLAC. The current senator of Baringo, who is now in Senate, Kiptum, was the chair of legal. Alice Wahome was the vice. I was in. Members, all the members who are in Kenya Kwanza, we were all removed from that committee. They wanted to do changes there to the constitution, which they did. And I think they wanted it to favor them, which to the Kenyans who pray, who wanted peace in the elections, God overturned the election, and Kenya Kwanza won that election peacefully and squarely. So you cannot tell us that the servers should be open.
Are you saying Azimio supporters don't pray?
But she has just said, yeah, we should not pray.
No,
I didn't say that.
She didn't say that. She just said.
I think.
No, I'm just building on that. I'm just building on that. So when the Kenyans have prayed, we've had peaceful elections, you cannot take Kenyans back and start saying that the servers should be opened. The High Court ruled over that. and peaceful,
the Supreme Court,
peaceful demonstrations are allowed. Are allowed. Why did the Azimio Brigade stay in hotel and the Kenyans were busy running helter-skelter? If you are a leader, lead by example. He could have just, you know, offices open at 8. Azimio leaders could have just come out at that time and converge with the people, tell the people we are doing a peaceful demonstration. We want to go and deliver our petition to the president.
But converge to Mheshimiwa, the minute they set foot out of Serena, others were arrested, and there was tear gas, and there were water cannons.
What time was that? What time? No.
It wasn't an issue of the time.
What time was that?
It was
you see, if that was even almost getting to 3 p.m.
Yes, it was
I'm telling
well
you,
after 2.
Yeah, it was after 2. But that thing, if the petition was there in the morning at 8, they had all assembled with the supporters at KICC.
I was here from 6 in the morning. I can assure you there is no way they would have assembled. But we need to take a break, Wanja. We'll come back. I'll come back even with Florence, because Florence, I'm also curious what you make of that revolutionary hero or political demagogue, because there's a list, there's a raft of demands. Yes, cost of living is one of them, but there are also some political issues attached, you know. So is this really about the Sufurias, or is this really about Raila Odinga and power on the other side of this break?
I think my biggest fear for this country is
Welcome back to AM Live. When we were on break, we were discussing prayers, and it was kicked off by Florence, who expressed some concern in line with one of the grievances of Azimio in their movement for defense of democracy. Kenya has experienced unparalleled religious harmony, which is the envy of the world. The attempt by Ruto to divide this country along religious and sectarian lines must stop. This was your concern.
For me, it's the attempt of politicians. I will not call, you know, the president or any other person, but politicians. You do not want to come in a society where we are there to, you know, our supreme being is God, and we're saying, you know, we all go to, they're not children of a lesser God, in other words. Every child is a child of God. In fact, there's a song that says, I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God. And so if I'm a child of God, just because maybe I'm affiliated to this side or this side, does not mean I'm a lesser child of God, or I pray less, because God hears and answers prayer. And so I was expressing myself in the break that I fear that sometimes politicians drive this nation to a place where somebody feels, hey, kwani mimi ni Mungu wangu kwani anakaa aje? Kwani mimi sikuomba enough? Yeah, so we shouldn't get to that place where we look at God and think God loves this ones and doesn't love this ones. We shouldn't get there. So that was my my reservation actually around that. I was supposed to answer about the...
Yes, the revolutionary hero. Let me just pull it up. There we go. Or political demagogue. Beatrice Adagala Mheshimiwa, woman rep for Vihiga, has actually taken the view that, you know, it's not black or white.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
But my question to you in relation to this is that this Mandamano we saw yesterday, was it really about the Sufurias, or was it about Raila Odinga's political ambitions?
I think I'll take the same route, because are people hungry? Yes. Fuel prices up? Yes. That means even me going to work and transport, taking a matatu, it will cost me much more. Is steamer high? Yes, it is. Is gas high? All those things. So all those things are a fact. It's not... If they had come up with something that is not a reality, then we would have said, what is their motivation? And I believe that because of that, usually you say when you're going to the negotiation table or when you're coming to present a case, what is the entry point? So the entry point could be, is a fact there's no food, or rather people are hungry and all those things that I've mentioned, but that does not stop them, because they are political. Does not stop them to agitate for their political right, so to speak. So yes, the entry point can be any entry point. I mean, as communicators, when you do a story, what is your entry point? And what are you trying to say in the end in the whole story? So their entry point is actually a fact. And what they're trying to also say in the story, as much as this is our entry point, this is also an issue that we want to raise on the table. And that is within their rights. Yeah,
okay,
so
so
him, for me, he's and I like when I remember when the deputy president said, "Oh, we want a strong politician," when he was quiet, because there's a time Raila was just quiet, and so somebody was writing yesterday and saying, "Okay, so the deputy president said he's quiet. Now he has just coughed." And now we are now complaining. What do you want from this man? And so for me, it's we want a strong opposition. We want a person or a team that can speak for the voiceless, can speak to those who are not able to speak, and also hold the government to account. So I look at him again both ways. He's a politician, therefore he will definitely agitate for the political issues and rights, but also he has to stand up as an opposition leader to speak on what the Mwananchi is saying. So he falls whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah.
Okay. Wanja, if you could quickly respond so that I can move us along.
Yeah. If I could quickly just respond in that issue of religion, with all due respect to God, the issue of religion is here with that, in that religion was also used along as a political tool and a political entry point, as it were. I'll just read about, I'm a social scientist, so sometimes I try to focus on some things. I want to read the meaning of the word othering from the word other, others, other. It says, othering people is the act of treating people, a group of people or someone, as though they are not part of a group and are different in some way. Now, the danger in othering people, you create a situation where you're saying you're different from us. And most of the time when you're othering people, you show them that you're superior to them, and their differences make them weak, bad. It's some sort of bullying in a way. You see, the moment you say that people prayed for this country, you know, this is God who has responded to our prayers. Some people would ask, so God only hears one side of people when they're praying? The moment you call for interdenominational prayers that have a lot of political undertones, then it is only logical for us to see those interdenominational prayers as just political forums that have been branded and given a sweet name to be interdenominational prayers. I remember when the current, when they went to State House for prayers with bishops, there was pouring oil and holy water to take away the evil spirits. You know, that could be spiting the supporters of the leader who was there before, because you're almost indirectly saying that they left with evil spirit and bad omen and bad luck. I see it very dangerous when you other people, because tomorrow you'll take some sort of extremism where we shall say, let's beat Olive because she's not prayerful enough. And the Bible, you know, you can always look for a Bible verse and take it literally and say we have to deal with them physically and what have you. But still back to the where we are coming from as a country. And Mheshimiwa has rightly put, let us give them time. It's just 6 months, maybe a year, then we shall be able to question. I take great wisdom and I like to read more about the politics of Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki came to the leadership of this country against very many challenges, both as a country and personal challenges. He was in a wheelchair, he was of ill health. At the same time, Kenya had been run down for a period of over 20 years. What did he do? Within 100 days, within 3 months, education was free, and children who ordinarily would not have gone to school were back in school. We saw Kenyans becoming literate, and some of the people who enjoyed the benefit of him being president are now actually adults. So my question is it that you are unable to do the job, why you keep asking for more time? Is it just an excuse? And for how long will you give excuse? Against the backdrop of a person who had really whipped the emotions of people who are not of high economic means, telling them that you are the messiah and the solution to all their problems. So that is where the disconnect is, and probably the disquiet, because some people are saying you cheated us, you lied to us, and for how long?
Okay, I want to move us. I know the prayer issue is so emotive, but I really please, Mheshimiwa, please allow me to move on on with the next part of the conversation, which is it time for political consensus? And how then do we go about it? And my entry point, given we are talking about entry points, is this statement from the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, and it's titled, "Dialogue Must Prevail, and greater responsibility falls on President Ruto." And the reason they say this is explained in the third paragraph of their statement. They say, in line with Article 131 of the Constitution of Kenya on the authority of the President, we call upon President William Ruto as a symbol of national unity to ensure that political stability is reinstated as the first priority and pave way for dialogue and bipartisanship on the range of grievances raised by the Azimio leadership. Therefore, we asked the President to initiate dialogue with the political leaders as soon as practically possible. Similarly, the President should ensure that enhanced dialogue goes beyond the political elite, accommodates gender equality, the inclusion of youth, minorities, civil society organizations, and other non-traditional actors like citizen movements in a political decision-making process. And in line with this, if you flip over to the editorial page, which we were looking at the image earlier, there is also a statement in the spirit of inclusion, and what they're talking about, this should not even be only about the political elites, is an opinion piece penned by Macharia Gaiva, and you know he doesn't hold his punches. And he says, appointments are betrayal of hustlers. President Ruto's grand vision will not be achieved when driven by incompetent dullards. But I don't want to get into this. I really want to focus on the CMD statement. Does Mheshimiwa Dagala, President Ruto, bear the greater responsibility for bringing an end to what they've referenced as the Machozi Mondays?
Oh, the Machozi Monday.
Yeah, that's
okay. Oh, because of tear gas.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you, Olive. Okay, the head of state, His Excellency Samuel Ruto, he's a symbol of unity, and he's in his capacity, he's to ensure all Kenyans are united and the Kenyan government or the Kenyan country is working. That one I agree, but the dialogue that should be there, you know, somebody somewhere has been used to, you can remember 202, what transpired, 207, the Prime Minister issue came up. We have come to 2017, the handshake issue. You know, Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and we cannot go back to the days of a one-party country. The opposition is there to oversight the government. I would love the CMD and other organizations to come, maybe bring together sanity, but the office should just, the opposition should remain in the opposition and the government should remain the government, so that the government works and the opposition have a role to play of oversight and checking on the government, which I strongly believe that should be the case, if that is the dialogue that is to be there. But not the dialogue of the handshake again. You have seen even the president himself, even the deputy president, saying that we should have a strong opposition, which is very right. We need to do that, and it should continue. That is the dialogue that should be there. This one to be told to stop these Sufuria issues, give the government time to work, and then we shall be able. And he is there to oversight, to check on the government and see are the right things being done, what they promised, are they delivering? They talked of the, like in education sector, this CBC issue, it was there, it was started by the former government, and now it's being implemented here with the Rangos, problems here and there. So the government, I want to tell you, my sister Olive and my sisters here, this government is working. With the time, you will see. Even the Sufuria Mwinko scenario, in the next 4 weeks or so, the situation will be different. the food prices, and even you remember last time, even before we were going to the elections, what was the price of unga? Right now, what is the price now? This has a difference. And if you work like this, you have seen, like gas, as women, we do most of the cooking. The gas now, the prices are going down. You can't just move from 1,000 to 200 overnight. It will be going in stages. You've seen gas is being reduced, the price, which is a plus to our women who are using firewood, and we have to protect our environment. We are going to see even the fuel for the gas for the vehicles and everything will come down, and even the price of power soon is going to come down. So my clarion call and my call on the opposition, the Azimio team, they should give this government time, and the government is going to deliver.
Okay. Do we have the time, the luxury of time, Florence? And I ask that because yesterday, let me just reference the Star on this one. So, and then actually, because I highlighted that opinion piece by Macharia Gaido, let me also highlight somebody who's singing the same tune as Mheshimiwa Dagala. That is Michael Waikenda, who's penned an opinion piece for the Star, and he says, even as the opposition continues to complain and disrupt the lives of Kenyans, it is instructive to note that the government has been working and has achieved a lot in 6 months. He says, give President Ruto time to work. Is in this situation, right? Do we have the luxury of time? And I ask that because, and I'm flipping quickly so I can get to how they've described the events that took place yesterday. City paralyzed as Raila leads demos. The deputy president, and they've provided facts and figures as well in the Star, and here they are. 2 billion shillings, if we are to believe the deputy president. DP Rigathi Gachagua says protests cost Kenya 2 billion shillings in revenue. Given that Raila Odinga has said every Monday tukutane kwa barabara, do we have the luxury of time?
Clearly, we don't have the luxury of time. And like I said in the beginning, if the psyche of a protester is that I want to be heard. Now, when you barricade roads and do all those things and hinder me from moving, it means there's something you're stopping me from. And so if this is allowed, assuming there's a protest again next Monday, allow them to do the petition. Allow them to, they were planning to meet at KICC. Allow them to meet at KICC. It's a short distance from KICC to what is it called? To State House. Allow them to give their petition. And then those protests stop. So that you say, well, we've received your petition, we are reviewing something. But what a protester wants is, I want to go home feeling they had me, I even presented my petition, it was picked. That's enough. Because then that way we stop any excuse that, let me say excuse that opposition then will use to say we are doing another one on Monday. But point is, it's a fact that people are hungry, and we definitely do not have the luxury of time. When we sit in our homes, it's easy for us to say, these guys can wait. But I have not slept hungry. God has privileged me and blessed me. I'm able to provide food for my children. But not everybody is in the same scale as I am. And so that person might not be as patient as I will be to wait for the president to get things moving and working. I always say, when you take care of the most vulnerable, then you are safer than starting with up here. Then number two, we've had the challenges of the deputy president making some utterances, and I've been on this show before, and I've said I wish he cannot speak certain things. And when he mentioned the issue of company, Kenya being a company, and the shareholders, the ones who have more shares, will get more than those who don't have, then it makes other Kenyans feel like, okay, since I didn't vote for this guy, and remember, the voter turnout was very poor. And so when you look at the numbers, you realize more people did not vote than the people who voted, or rather who voted for the government. So some utterances by our politicians need to stop, so that the country is not volatile, so that we actually actualize where, and especially when it comes from the second in command, so that we actualize the presidents. And I kept on saying that sometimes I feel like he's shooting the president in the foot, because I don't hear the president talking the way the deputy president speaks. Mheshimiwa here mentioned the women. When we have these challenges going on every week, women suffer most. When we have hunger in the land, it is children. The children run to the mother for food. They hardly, in fact, in my house, my children ask, "Mommy, what are we eating today?" They don't ask. They won't ask a man. They will ask the mother. So mothers are feeling the pinch more. If they were to come out and protest, women are feeling the pinch more. To the president, God has given him the mandate, if we were to go that route, to run this nation, to be in the place of authority for all Kenyans, not for some Kenyans, not for Kenya Kwanza Kenyans, but for all Kenyans, from the north to the south, from the east to the west. I pray that he exercises the wisdom of Solomon, or asks God for the wisdom of Solomon, not to hear the noises of left, right, and center, because you will always have your people who are like, you have to put your stand down, you are the man. But this is not the time to flex muscles. This is the time to call, and now I'm going back to the statement, that it is time to have a conversation. If you don't want handshake, put it there on that conversation and say, hey, you guys, even as you come, handshake is not on the table. That doesn't stop him from having a dialogue. That doesn't, the fact that somebody might want a handshake or not should not stop dialogue from happening, because we are cognizant of the fact that the most vulnerable in our country are suffering. And for only that reason, we are having this conversation. And that can be laid on the table and have a conversation and move this nation forward. We don't have the luxury of time. If Maandamano goes on for 6 months, then what? What is going to happen? And while people are in their rightful position to say, wait a minute, until I can afford to eat ugali, which is supposed to be the cheapest meal to put on the table, ugali and skuma, then I still am challenged. Yeah, because you just need water and some, and you're able to cook a meal for your children, or even make porridge, So I pray that the president will lead as a man who is leading all Kenyans, and ask God to give him wisdom to speak for all Kenyans, not some Kenyans.
Okay, and I'm trying to pull up that CMD statement, because it will inform my question to you, Wanja. And so the CMD has made this request of the president. It has also made a request of Azimio, and they've been asked, or Raila Odinga has been asked, to give dialogue a chance by dropping the call for mass action every Monday. And they say this will create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, a condition necessary to help the country address the current economic hardships. And they say we encourage the political class to seek shared solutions for the benefit of all citizens. Lifting the country from the ravaging impacts of the runaway cost of living will require bipartisanship from leaders both local and national, at both local and national levels of governance. And this can only happen in an environment of political stability and peace. What will it take? Irreducible minimum, because you have a long list, and I opened it here of demands. Let me see, up to how many number? You have a list of 15 demands, or rather grievances, right? So it's a long list, but at the very minimum, what needs to happen so that we call off these protests and we can stop seeing scenes such as this? I saw this picture and I wondered, how does somebody ngoa this thing? Do you see it? I saw the sign, the guy walking. Yes. If
it was relocated.
Did you see the caption? Yes. If Raila cannot get to Tomboya, but what will it take at the very minimum? Wanja.
Thank you very much. Certainly, I don't speak for our leader, whom you asked if he's a demagogue or a political revolutionary, but I just wish to speak into that statement. I know the chairperson of CMD is Priscilla Nyukabi, a lady who has constantly spoken in a way that is to be admired, so certainly. But I think one of the beautiful things that I've seen in the statement is that the Honorable William Ruto, the president, he is the symbol of national unity. And I think that is where the conversation begins. You see, as Florence has just said, is that there has been conversations around Kenya becoming a private company, the shareholders, if you come late, you'll be at the back of the queue. In as much as such utterances have been made to be funny and to be made to look like it was just in jest, in a country that has 42 tribes, in a country whose history has been some communities feeling excluded and marginalized, to many people that is a very is a statement that is divisive. It is a conversation that leads to the word that I described earlier, othering, say us and then you. You know, there is the New York, he was a governor in New York, his name was Cuomo, of Italian descent. He said that politicians have a tendency to campaign in poetry, but they govern in prose. Now, in the conversation of tutaweka Biblia chini, alafu unga itaenda chini, the way it is put and the amount of poetry that was put in that statement, your average Kenyan who is at the bottom was of the view that that thing will be instant. My problems with basics, food, shelter, will be solved immediately. That was the poetry around the conversation. But now with the prose is give us time, we came, we found. You see, if as a leader, if nothing else, give us hope. You see, people, the worst thing you can do is for people to feel hopeless. And allow me to just go back to 2007, 2008, with the utmost sensitivity to the political happenings that happened, but that is our history. There was a report that was written, and one of the statements was that the violence, quote, quote, the violence was mostly by young people who felt like they have nothing to lose. That is the exact word that I can quote from that report. You see, when a person says that they have nothing to lose, it means that this is a person without hope. And it is unfortunate that we have gotten to a point as a country whereby very many people in their thousands are coming out to andamana. They're identifying with a message of Sufuria and Amuiko. It tells you that these people are doing so badly that they are unable to meet their basic needs. That is quite telling of this country. That is quite telling of the rate of inequality and the rate of disconnect between the people who are being ruled and the people who are ruling. Let's talk about cooking gas.
Okay, so I have to stop you there because I'm being told Nico time bad. But I want to appreciate you ladies for being here this morning and for having this conversation. This is a conversation we'll continue until Mandabano Florence Machio, gender campaign specialist, Wanja Maina, budding politician. She's good, right? Mheshimiwa Dagala, very good. As well as you have my vote. If you happen to smama where I vote, I'll vote for you. As well as a gender specialist and very good grasp of issues, all of you. And Mheshimiwa Dagala, she is the woman rep Vihiga County. You're very well represented this morning. My name is Olive Burrows. I'm going to leave AM Live there and make way for your world. Nantawacha na hii picha ya Taifa Leo, capturing what transpired yesterday in South Africa. Good morning.